see for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. Oh yeah. We don't need no education.
Now that we're starting to get used to the radar, or maybe not, don't worry if this has been intimidating. It took me a couple days too. But we'll get into the wild world of azimuth customization. Sounds horrible, but it's actually really neat and helpful. You can see on this picture that we've narrowed the azimuth from 120 degrees to 60. And this allows us a faster scan rate. I've whipped up a little picture here, and it shows what a normal scan would be like at 120 degrees. It actually takes the antenna quite an amount of time to cover all this distance, and that can be bad sometimes, especially when we start getting into track wall scan mode. So what we can do, we can cut the scan area in half, and that will double your scan speed, as I've written here in this second diagram. And another advantage it brings us is being able to slew the radar antenna back and forth. You still can't go past 60 degrees to either side, but you get the fast scan rate all the way over to the side. And this can actually bring a couple of tactics that we might talk about if we get into advanced Eagle stuff. But that's way beyond what we're at now. Now that we've mastered the methods for slewing the radar side to side and customizing it like that, we can look into how to make the scan go up and down. There are a couple methods for making this bigger. One is to increase the range scale, which is just an easy key command, can go up to 160 or down to 10 for the range scale. And if you move the cursor towards the top, you will widen the elevation limits. If you move it towards the bottom, you will shorten them. This has to do with the cursor looking at different ranges when you do that. And the reason you want to do this is you can only scan so much space at a time, and that means there are some times when the enemy is going to be above your radar. And as you can see in this diagram, if he is above your radar, you don't see him, and you get a missile right in your face. Generally, we like to avoid having missiles in our faces, so that's why we kick the scan up to see the MiG and put a missile in his face. How do you know if he's up there? Well, that's one of the tricks of the trade. You have an AWACS tell you, or you spot him, or somebody else spots him, or something. Maybe you just shift it up there because you're a wily, gray-haired master and you want to see what's up there. And you can also do the opposite to see like an Su-17 or something that's way down there in the weeds. But this brings its own problems. Because looking down means that you're looking at the ground. Modern radars use the Doppler effect, which calculates closing speed, and the enemy can use this to their advantage. I'm not going to explain how, because it's in the Flaming Close manual. You can look it up yourself. But long story short, if they fly perpendicular to you, your radar cannot tell the difference between them and the ground, and you simply lose them. They're completely off the scope. This also makes chaff and ECM more effective. Unfortunately for them, and fortunately for us, they can't bring their radar around far enough, so it's a purely defensive measure. We can also use this on our own, but it's a pretty last-ditch thing. This last one's pretty easy. It's range. Talked about it a little bit before, but just some things I want to go over in a little more detail. Of course, there's the range scale. Like I mentioned before, you can crank it all the way up to 160. And, yeah, you generally don't want to have it at 160. I recommend 80 if you're doing a long-range scan, and 20 if you're going in close. And, as mentioned before, the lines on the radar progressively going down. The very top one represents your range scale, like if it says 20 in this picture, that would be 20 nautical miles. Just below that is 3/4 of it. In this case, it means 15. The middle one, in this case, means 10. It's a half. And the lower one means 5 in this case. It's a quarter. And of course the very, very bottom one means, it means your nose is pretty much impregnating whatever you're seeing there. You might want to go guns mode at that point. So, not much else to say on the range scale. And now we've finished the customization unit. We're on to bigger and better things. Now we're going to get into the HUD. It's about time we pull our head out of the cockpit and start looking through that little screen of ultimate happiness. Or at least easy information. In normal scan mode, range wall search, there's not much you can get on the HUD that you don't get anytime else. You know, speed, altitude, heading, time to the next waypoint, yada 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 yada. But there's a couple different things you can pick up from it. Firstly, in combat modes, it starts giving you your Mach number. Currently, in this one, we see we're doing Mach 1.43, so we're really hauling, especially considering there's a fuel tank on board. Right above that, tells you your weapon type. This here shows that we are carrying 2 M120C AMRAAMs. So this is the AMRAAM HUD. That dotted circle thing basically shows, well, that's symbology for something that I'll explain later when we get into non-radar visual launches. The AMRAAM has the capability to guide onto a target even if you don't have your radar on, provided he's close enough. So I'll explain that later. And at the very, very bottom right, it says visual there. That's just showing that we're in the AMRAAM's visual mode. Moving on to Sidewinders, we see not much has changed. The visual is gone, and we are carrying 2 AIM-9M model all-aspect Sidewinders. And apparently the Sidewinder is uncaged, which is something also we'll learn about. It's, really what we're seeing now is just the visual launch HUD symbology, and I'll explain all that in detail later. Basically, those circles go from the outside in, show uncaged and caged seeker off foresight capability. Well, again, we'll get into that later. And finally, the Sparrow. Sparrow's kind of odd. It's a semi-active missile. We're packing 4 of them because there's a lot in the inventory. We gotta get rid of them. USAF doesn't want them hanging around anymore. And so far as I can figure, that circle is completely worthless because unless you're in flood mode, again, something we'll learn about later. Unless you're in flood mode and if you don't have a lock, Sparrow's not going to be worth anything. I don't know if they're just trying to provide a big old circle in case you're 2 feet behind some guy and want to blow him up kamikaze style. I don't know. It's just a circle there. Don't think it's supposed to help you in any way. If anybody knows how it helps, email me. If you can find my email, which I'm not going to say here. Oh, and by the way, you've doubtless noticed that my HUD was this ugly color red. I did that so that you could see it against the background more easily in that horrible quality video you're watching. Control H switches between 3 different shades of green, yellow, and red, and you can use that at your discretion, whichever you like best. Hopefully you picked up this video from the first one where we discussed all the other stuff. You may have noticed that in the last one I promised that we were going to talk about track wall scan and STT modes. We didn't get around to that. I plan on uploading these to YouTube, and they restrict you to 10 minutes, so I had to keep the video length down. So, I'm not going to make the mistake of promising what I'm going to show next time. You'll just have to tune in and find out. Good luck.